you know, if you go to Northern Ireland, we still have over 70 walls segregating communities. And here you have a wall here which essentially divides the Catholic and Protestant community. And, you know, whenever I bring tourists here, they're always fascinated by this, that, you know, 12 years on, there are still certain communities divided. I do want to emphasise again that, you know, I haven't been to a city in the world where there aren't good areas and bad areas. And I'm not saying these are bad areas, by the way, but you can still see the division. I mean, it's hard to hide the fact. And I never pull the wool over people's eyes by saying, well, now you've come from the bog side where it says you are now entering Free Derry to seeing the Union Jack flag flying there. And this, the other side of this wall is the Protestant community, the Loyalist community. Well, you know, I was listening to this BBC radio programme, you see, and they were asking, the radio interviewer was asking people on either side of the wall, were they happy with the peace process? And the vast majority of people were, and then they said, well, if you're happy with the peace process, do you want the wall to come down? What do you think the answer was? No. Well, it was slightly more positive. The answer was actually yes, but not yet. Now, when I thought about that and wrote about it in my own diary, I actually began to think of my own children. The two younger ones who were trying to wean off the comfort blankets. We're trying to give them to the fairies at the moment, and they keep finding them. So it's very difficult to wean yourself off anything. And unfortunately now we've got used to this. And we've had a whole generation who's got used to nothing but divide. I keep saying it's very easy to take the physical walls down, but much more difficult to take these mental barriers. I am sure it will happen, but it's a case of when. Yeah. Remember, we're not long out of this conflict as well. I try and focus you on what we have achieved as opposed to what remains outstanding. I never for 1 minute imagined this was going to change overnight. I think this will take generations. I was reading an article in July of an event that took place in St Andrews in Scotland in 1970. It was called the British Open Championship. And on that day, on the final green, an American man by the name of Doug Sanders had a putt of this length to win the British Open Championship, and Doug missed the putt, and he went into a playoff the next day with an even more famous American golfer by the name of Jack Nicklaus, and Jack's name is now on the Claret Jug trophy. And the interviewer was reminiscing 40 years after the event, and he asked Doug, he said, Doug, 40 years after missing that putt, has the pain ever gone away? And Doug said, absolutely. He says, I now only think about it every 5 minutes. I really do think Northern Ireland's a little bit like that. I mean, the pain never really goes away. You live with it and you learn to live with it and deal with it. But people are still inevitably very emotional here.